We believe that we have solved the mystery concerning the Rule of Two's most confusing and controversial Sith Lord. The Sith that we love, Darth Vectivus, the Sith that did no evil. This is one of the strangest figures in the Sith history, especially in the era of the Rule of Two. Darth Vectivus was first told to us by Lady Lumaya, who gave his tale to a young and an impressionable Jacen Solo. However, there were several things about Darth Vectivus that raised some flags with many people, the first of which being the obvious: how can a Sith Lord live and not do any evil? One that existed in the Rule of Two especially, where it was imperative to kill one's master. There were so many logical fallacies about the life of Darth Vectivus and his story, so much was called into question. Many believed that this was a complete lie, a story made up by Lumaya to tempt Jacen Solo into joining and drawing upon the dark side of the Force, telling him that there was an example of a Sith Lord out there that used the dark side without succumbing fully to its power and the whisper of evil. However, what we have learned is that Vectivus was indeed a real man. And what's even more shocking from what we've discovered is we believe that Lumaya was telling the truth about everything that the man was. The truth of it all lies with a single holocron left behind by Vectivus. Greetings, Acolytes, and welcome back to the Archives. In today's holocron, we are going to once again revisit the mystery of Darth Vectivus. But today we are going to be talking not just about the man, but how he was presented in the lore, the proof of his existence, and what the later Sith thought of this man. But first, we have experienced a terrible vision in the Force. Many who use our archives are not yet subscribed to our order, so if you've been enjoying the near daily Star Wars holocron uploads, reach out with the Force and crush that subscribe button. It is your destiny. We have foreseen it. The story of Vectivus is a strange one to say the least. We are told he was a man who became a Sith purely out of curiosity, that he got his start as a shrewd businessman originally. The being who would become Vectivus was a human male who had a large family and a close-knit circle of friends, two oddities for a Sith already. He was an intelligent entrepreneur who had a successful career in business. For his entire life, he was just a Joe normal, everyday guy, except for the fact that he was unknowingly Force sensitive. He lived as the administrator of the John X Mine 811B mining facility on an asteroid in deep space. This ore-heavy asteroid was labeled as the MZX32905, but both Vectivus and the later inhabitants would simply call it the Home. The asteroid belt known as the Home was near the planet of Bimiel in the Outer Rim, but what both the administrator and the mining employees did not know was that the Home was deeply infused with the dark side. A dark side nexus lay deep within the asteroid, which had been a result of an extinct ancient species native to the dark side itself, one that had constructed an ancient civilization there. Unfortunately, we don't know a lot about this ancient civilization in the lore, but we can go looking if you guys want a video. Soon, the energies of the dark side began to affect the sanity of the John X Mine employees. The Force sensitive among them began experiencing visions or displayed new powers in the Force. Some of them even began to behave like the ancient species that had once inhabited the asteroid, as if they had been possessed by spirits long dead. The administrator, who was also experiencing strange phenomena, decided to close his facility down and discreetly cover up the bizarre events. He had become fascinated by his new powers, and he believed that he could hear the very whispers of the mine itself. So he decided to plumb into the depths of the caverns below, to experiment more with his newfound abilities, where he could hear the power of the dark side most clearly. Eventually, the entire mining operation on the asteroid belt became less lucrative, and Vectivus was no longer interested in maintaining the business, so he carefully mismanaged things in order to run it closer and closer to the ground, to bring a closure to things. He didn't want others venturing to the asteroid, so he needed to make its failure legitimate, keep everything quiet. Once the business was done, the man ventured out into the galaxy in search of something greater than himself: the Sith. Unfortunately for us though, at this pivotal moment, the lore goes quiet. We are not told the details of what exactly he finds, but we do know that he does locate a Sith Master, soon inheriting the title of the Dark Lord and becoming officially Darth Vectivus. However, the established moral code of his former life as a business executive remained deeply engraved in the man. Adherence to both those ethical standards prevented him from succumbing to the stereotypical ways of the Sith. Violence, galactic ambition, and the eradication of the Jedi were of no consequence to Vectivus. His contention was to simply immerse himself in Sith lore, to study the galaxy. For Vectivus, his conquest would be that of knowledge and business pursuits. Years later, he would return to the Home and built a massive mansion in the heart of the asteroid's dark side potency. There, Vectivus continued his study in the dark side, pioneering an ability known as Force Phantom. Force Phantom was a strange ritual that was an act that created apparitions from the siphoned force energy of another life form. What this entailed was searching out through the force for a single being. A species or sentience level did not matter. One could choose a bantha if they were so inclined. This would be what is known as the anchor of the phantom, something which roots it in reality. The practitioner then draws out the life essence of the creature. This does not kill the creature, it simply takes their astral form and morphs it into an apparition which is totally under the control of the Sith Master. These apparitions are mostly invisible to the naked eye, but they can be sensed by force sensitives, as well as seen on infrared cameras and scans. They can take the form of whatever the Sith decides, and they serve whatever purpose is needed, whether that be servitude, delivery, communication, or even combat. The Sith doesn't even have to be present with them for them to do their work. A phantom can be projected across vast differences, but they become more difficult to control the farther away they are. The process of summoning one is incredibly taxing on the user, and requires a substantial amount of force reserve in order to do so, but they are very useful once they are summoned. There is nothing inherently evil about a force phantom, since the creature they are summoned from are not harmed during the process. However, they are harmed in their phantom form. At the time that this apparition is destroyed by any means, the physical creature that served as its anchor also dies as well, in the same manner in which the phantom is killed. So while the ability itself is not sinister in nature per se, it would be especially cruel if the apparitions were used for combat. But what's compelling is that it appears as if Darth Vectivus didn't use his force phantoms in combat ever, adding more to the idea that he was not evil inherently. Vectivus was go on to pursue more financial operations on the side of business, while he would study the dark side in his spare time. His wisdom gained from the Force and his Sith training aided him in his business endeavors a great deal. He would also go on to craft a holocron of his own, pouring his knowledge into it. Apparently, he did quite a bit for his studies, as he was able to summon hundreds of Force Phantoms at once with very little effort. Oddly, the one thing that is mentioned about his story is him never training an apprentice. We have to assume that he of course did train an apprentice successfully, otherwise the rule of two would not have continued. But that brings up yet another confusing thing about his story: his death. Instead of dying at the hands of his apprentice, which is proper, he perished of old age. We know that he died happily surrounded by his friends and family. At least, that's what Lumaya says happened to him. But with Vectivus's death, things are about to get very interesting and controversial. Many years down the road, Lumaya made her secret base on the home, the asteroid. This is where she would tell the story to Jacen Solo. The way it was presented to us is that Lumaya is attempting to convince the good-natured Jacen that using the dark side is possible without succumbing to depravity of Vader or Sidious, becoming like his family. However, Lumaya and Vergir, who he both work with, were pathological liars. These two dark side Sith hopefuls would say anything to get Jacen to join their ranks. For Vergir especially, it is said that for her, truth and lies were both a means to an end. Lumaya was much in the same way. She played with facts to get what she needed. Much like Palpatine manipulating Anakin with the story of Darth Plagueis, it is possible that Lumaya only gave half-truths about Darth Vectivus and his life, making it appear as if the dark side was not as treacherous as Luke and other Jedi made it out to be. For a very long time, it was assumed that Vectivus was completely made up, a fabrication by Lumaya. Many Sith believed the existence of Vectivus to be impossible, many fans as well. But interestingly, we do not only have evidence that Darth Vectivus was real, but that he may have been everything that Lumaya claimed that he was. This all comes down to both his holocron and how he was remembered by the Sith that followed. The latter members of the Rule of Two absolutely despised Vectivus to the point of believing that he was a fake Sith, an imposter. Vectivus did nothing to further the goals of the Sith, and he left behind a legacy of mediocrity. In fact, they hated him so much that they treated his holocron as a piece of garbage. This was because he had mainly used his holocron as an accounting PC to keep track of all of his figures, using it to keep track of his finances. The knowledge contained was accounting logs, business ledgers, and advice and philosophy on business. One such entry said this: "Never borrow money from someone powerful enough to make you pay. Let your workers know you trust them, then watch them." However, the one reason they did not destroy the holocron of Vectivus was because it contained one piece of knowledge that all Sith wanted: the Force Phantom technique. This was the only worthwhile dark side information that the holocron contained. But the holocron of Vectivus was lost for centuries due to the madness of another Sith Lord, Darth Gravid. For a very long time, the Rule of Two searched for the holocron of Vectivus, hoping to get their hands on this single ability. In the year 40 ABY, the cult of the One Sith were discreetly growing in power on Korriban under Darth Krayt, and they got their hands on the holocron of Vectivus and learned the power of the Force Phantom. As a group, they decided to have it delivered to Darth Vectivus as an insult. The gift was to show what his worth to the Sith Order really was. The One Sith had found Darth Vectivus to be worthless, expendable. The treatment of Vectivus' legacy indicates that his status as a benevolent Sith may in fact be true, at least to some extent. There is even suggestions that Lumaya wasn't actually lying to Jacen, but deeply desired to have a Sith Lord rule the galaxy with the same moral compass as Darth Vectivus, believing that Jacen was a good candidate. Nevertheless, there are many things that don't add up about the life of Vectivus, and its entire legitimacy is questionable. The first is first. It's very difficult to accept that Vectivus did not kill his master. This is the most important step in the Banite Sith's life. This is what makes them worthy of taking the mantle. And not only this, but it's also impossible for Vectivus' master to not have died. If Vectivus did not kill him, then he would have considered him unworthy and would have trained a new apprentice, and that apprentice would be remembered in the line of the Rule of Two. But Darth Vectivus is the one who continued the Banite lineage directly, not someone else, so he did inherit the title, and his master is dead. But we do have a few theories. The first one is that we have to stretch the definition of doing no evil. From a certain point of view, vanquishing a Sith Lord may not be considered evil since they themselves are evil. Of course though, an apprentice slaying their master is not a righteous act. They do not have righteous intentions in doing this. However, the definition of doing no evil could be referencing the fact that Vectivus never pursued dominion, nor violence from the rest of the galaxy, and never pursued any sort of conquest from that point forward. Perhaps the story isn't implying that he was as pure as the driven snow, but that he was simply not interested in committing the atrocities native to other Sith. So the first possibility is that he did kill his master, but that it was not accredited to him as an evil act. The second theory is that he inherited the title by a technicality. This one requires us to use our imagination a little bit. Perhaps the Sith Master that Vectivus found was incredibly old or dying. It's a possibility that this had been a failure of the Sith, who had never found a suitable apprentice before. So when Vectivus arrived, the Master took the first opportunity that presented itself. He poured all of his knowledge into his new apprentice, just so that the Banite lineage could continue. In the moment of Vectivus' training, and the second that it was complete, the Master died due to this illness, leaving behind the businessman, the new Dark Lord of the Sith, by technicality alone, not by what he had proven himself worthy of, while still maintaining that he did no evil by not slaying his master. But again, this has not been confirmed at all, and is simply our own headcanon. We can't exactly take this as a firm conclusion though. And then there is the matter of Vectivus' apprentice. This being is not mentioned at all in the life of Vectivus, but it's someone who would have existed. Vectivus' peaceful death is a part of Lumaya's story that I personally believe to be the most likely lie. But it is possible that his apprentice did not kill him, which would give rise to another controversial Sith. You see, in the timeline of the Rule of Two, the next known Sith that follows Vectivus is Darth Gravid, though not directly. While we unfortunately don't have the actual dates that these two Sith Lords lived, it's quite possible that Gravid could have been Vectivus' apprentice, even though it's never specified. If this were true, it would also answer another great mystery of the Rule of Two Sith. As a quick recap, Gravid was a Sith Lord who became obsessed with Jedi lore, to the point where he went insane from trying to mix and merge Sith and Jedi ideologies and teachings. In the end, Gravid believed that he had to rebuild the Sith from the ground up, so he began to either destroy or hide away the collection of Sith knowledge that the Rule of Two had accumulated. He was stopped eventually by his apprentice, Darth Jean, but by the time that she defeated and killed him, he had already burned or lost a great deal of Sith books, scrolls, and holocrons. Among these was confirmed to be the holocron of Darth Vectivus. Now, the reason this is a huge connection is because it would answer why Darth Gravid became so obsessed with Jedi tradition and lore. If his own master was the Sith that did no evil, and Vectivus never killed the one who trained him, then Gravid would not have had the proper Sith way demonstrated to him at all. If he didn't kill Vectivus, he would have earned the title of the Dark Lord illegitimately, and would never have taken that important step in Sithhood. In the Plagueis novel, we learn that killing one's master is not just ceremonially important to the Sith, but it's ritualistically important to the dark side. When Palpatine kills Darth Plagueis, it is said that he is anointed by the dark side. This is to say that he has been chosen to be the next Dark Lord, granted distinct power boosts because of it. The dark side energies of the universe focused into his one vessel, instantly granting Palpatine maddening levels of power. It is also said that he was enlightened to a higher state of mind, as he fully understood his mission as a Dark Lord. This is why it is said that Darth Plagueis was more powerful than Palpatine before Palpatine actually killed him. After the ritual was complete, Sidious's level of power grew astronomically, as the dark side itself had elected and chosen him. But if Gravid never had this moment because Vectivus died of old age, then he wouldn't be fully in tune with the rule of two. This fact, coupled with him having nothing but honest business practice, demonstrated Vectivus would lead him into becoming fascinated by the altruistic and compassionate ways of the Jedi, something he unknowingly instilled within his own apprentice. We plan on talking more about Gravid in another video, but these are our thoughts that connect him with Vectivus, and perhaps a reason why the later Sith absolutely despised him. Vectivus would have trained the Sith who set their order back for hundreds of years. But anyway, my friends, this is the greatest mystery of the Rule of Two that we believe that we may have solved. This confirms that not only was Darth Vectivus real, but he was more than likely everything Lumaya said he was, and that Lumaya may have been telling the truth. But anyway, my friends, was this something that you had ever debated about? And had you ever doubted the existence of the Sith that did no evil? Let us know your thoughts or rebuttals in the comments down below. And as always, may the Force be with you, and I hope you're having a fantastic day.